and if you're traveling a long way tonight, I'd seriously think about not leaving the house at all. No one in London saw it coming. Not the commuters fighting through thick fog on their way home, not the families settling in for a quiet Sunday night, not the airports running like nothing was wrong. But hidden beneath that fog, a vicious deep freeze was tightening its grip, dragging temperatures into the low 20s Fahrenheit, colder than southern England has any right to be. Then, without warning, it struck. Snow exploded out of the sky. What started as a few gentle flakes glowing under streetlights turned in minutes into a raging winter onslaught that buried the capital alive. 2 to 4 inches fell fast and stuck instantly to roads already frozen solid. Sidewalks, rail switches, airport runways, everything turned lethal. In less than an hour, a city that laughs at drizzle suddenly looked like it had been airlifted into the dead of a Midwest blizzard. Flights were wiped out, highways became skating rinks, trains froze where they stood, and millions across the country woke up to one icy reality. It doesn't take a monster blizzard to cripple a nation, just the wrong storm at the exact wrong moment. What happened next exposed Britain's infrastructure like never before, crushed its transport network, and ended in a tragedy so heartbreaking it brought the entire country to a standstill. This is the night London froze solid, and Britain learned just how dangerously unprepared it truly was. Sunday afternoon drapes Britain in a cold so brutal it feels alien. London, usually damp, drizzly, sitting comfortably in the 40s this time of year, is trapped in a Midwest-style polar blast. For 7 straight days, temperatures have plummeted into the low 20s, frosting the city white, turning puddles into skating rinks, every breath into a frozen cloud. Thick fog swallows buildings whole and eats car headlights alive. Drivers crawl forward, hazards flashing through the murk. Pedestrians hunch deep in their coats, picking their way across sidewalks already treacherously slick. Inside homes, heaters scream around the clock, pushing the national grid to the brink as families crank thermostats just to feel their fingers. But underneath the ordinary, grocery runs, evening commutes, kids coming home from weekend football, something darker is building. This isn't normal British chill. The air feels sharp enough to cut. Weather alerts ping phones with vague winter conditions, but nothing dramatic enough to spark panic. Yet you can feel it. The stillness, the fog that won't lift, the mercury still falling degree by merciless degree. London is locked in ice, completely blind to the fact that in just hours this quiet, frozen afternoon is about to erupt into a full-blown winter catastrophe southern England is in no way ready for. As evening falls across the south, the fog finally starts to thin, not because it's warming up, but because something far colder and heavier is shoving its way in. One lone snowflake drifts through a streetlight's glow, then another, then 1,000 more. In minutes, London, a city that considers a light dusting a once-a-decade event, is hammered by relentless, intensifying snow no forecast ever saw coming. Rooftops vanish under white, park benches disappear, cars parked on narrow streets get buried alive, and the ground, frozen rock-hard for a week, does the only thing it can, turns every falling flake into instant black ice. 2 to 4 inches piles up, nothing to an American, but pure apocalypse here. Sidewalks become invisible death traps, pedestrians crash with every step, cyclists jump off and walk, drivers touch the brakes and slide sideways in terror. Even the mighty red double-decker buses spin their wheels helplessly on the slightest hill. Storefronts glow behind frosted glass, while the crunch of tires and distant sirens fill the air. A city that never sleeps suddenly crawls, staggers, and almost stops dead. Yes, it looks beautiful. The beauty is hiding pure danger. With almost zero snowplows, barely any salt trucks, and no real winter playbook, this storm isn't just rare, it's a threat London has no weapons to fight. By Sunday night, the storm stops being a spectacle and becomes a full-scale national collapse, unfolding in real time. Chaos erupts first at the airports. Gatwick shuts his runways as snow piles faster than crews can clear it. De-icing trucks race plane to plane while ice reforms in seconds in the brutal wind and cold. Stansted follows, grounding everything. Passengers huddled under blankets in terminals, clutching cold coffee as departure boards bleed red. London to Glasgow, London to Dublin, London to Amsterdam. Gone. Monday's entire schedule obliterates itself before midnight even hits. Into nightmares. What looks like innocent snow is a microscopic layer of black ice waiting to kill. Cars fishtail into junctions. Delivery vans slide sideways off bridges. Buses give up and park where they stop. Across southern England, the message is unmistakable. Just a few inches on frozen ground is enough to paralyze an entire country. Planes, trains, automobiles, all dead at once. And the temperature keeps dropping. While London fights frozen roads and dead airports, the storm's darkest moment explodes miles away in the quiet Midlands town of Solihull. A small lake that almost never freezes has become a perfect sheet of white glass after 7 days in the low 20s. To a group of young boys, it looks magical, an impossible playground they've only seen in movies. They step out onto the ice. A gunshot crack rips the air. The ice shatters. 4 boys plunge straight into water so cold it can stop a heart in seconds. Their screams tear across the park as the freeze steals their breath. Witnesses sprint across cracking ice, throwing themselves flat, reaching desperately for tiny hands disappearing beneath the surface. Police and firefighters arrive within minutes, diving into the murderous cold without a second thought, battling hypothermia to drag the children out. But the cold shows no mercy. 3 boys, only 8, 10, and 11 years old, never make it through the night. A 4th, just 6, is rushed to hospital, clinging to life against extreme hypothermia. As night falls, blue lights strobe across the frozen lake, while rescue teams refuse to give up, searching the black water for any sign of another child. Parents collapse on the shore, screaming names into the wind. The tragedy slams the nation like a fist. In a storm defined by travel hell and icy roads, this becomes its blackest, most unbearable moment, a devastating warning of how lethal sudden freezes are in a country that's never had to learn. Monday morning, Britain wakes up encased in ice. The snow is eased, but the cold has doubled down. Overnight temps crash into the teens and low 20s again, turning slush into concrete and glazing entire streets in bulletproof ice. Roads that were bad are now impossible, cars frozen to the ground, commuters surrendering before they even try. Train stations become refugee camps of scarves and fury as the same red messages glow, "Canceled, canceled, canceled." Crews hammer ice off switches and blast tracks with heaters, but the railway lifeline stays broken. Highways are graveyards of abandoned vehicles, glazed in ice. Desperate drivers scrape windshields with credit cards and house keys only to find their tires welded to the road. Buses slide backwards on hills and whole routes vanish. Inside homes, heaters roar nonstop, boilers spale, power demand spikes dangerously. Councils throw open warming centers with blankets and hot food, begging the elderly to come in before the cold kills them. Schools shut, deliveries stop, pharmacies stay dark. Daily life grinds to a halt. For millions, this isn't just a snow day. It's a brutal revelation of how fragile everything really is. And with forecasters warning of nights of deadly cold still to come, one question hangs in the frozen air. How does a country built only for rain ever climb out of a freeze this savage? As Britain claws its way out of the ice, one truth burns brighter than anything else. This storm didn't dump feet of snow. It didn't bring hurricane winds. It barely warned anyone it was coming. Yet just 2 to 4 inches on frozen ground and temperatures in the teens were enough to shut down airports, kill the rail network, paralyze roads, and take the lives of 3 innocent children. What happened here is a screaming wake-up call. Extreme weather doesn't have to be huge to be catastrophic. Sometimes the deadliest storms hit the places least ready for them, the cities that never bought plows, the countries that never needed chains, the infrastructures built for a climate that no longer exists. And as weather patterns worldwide go high-wire, nights like this won't stay rare, they'll become the new normal. For Americans watching from warmer states, Atlanta, Houston, Dallas, Miami, ask yourself, if this hit your city tomorrow, would we cope any better, or would we freeze just as helplessly? If this story shook you, if it made you realize how fast everything can break when Mother Nature decides to test us, share it. Let someone else see how quickly a storm can change or end a life. Subscribe for more raw weather stories, survival accounts, and extreme breakdowns from around the world. Because storms don't knock, they don't apologize, and the next one could be headed straight for your doorstep. The only question left is, will you be ready when it arrives?